What's happening, everybody? Welcome to Off the Rails, a recovery podcast dedicated to ending the stigma of addiction through open discussion on all things recovery. My name is Mark. With me always are Dave and Jared. And Jared, take it away, buddy.
Yeah, today we got a very special guest, Shane Vitko. I think that's how you say it.
That'll work. That's good.
From Boston, Massachusetts. And he's a veteran and been sober since August 23rd, 2018.
Nice.
Congratulations, and we're excited to have you.
Thanks, bud.
Shane,
Appreciate
thanks so much for joining us today, man.
Yeah, I'm excited. So
as I was explaining to you before, every Thursday we put out an episode where we share someone's story with their struggle of addiction. And we're very grateful to have you here today. And we're looking forward to hear your story. So let's take it away, man.
my name's Shane. My last name is I made short kind of for this kind of thing because I have a wild last name and it just didn't really roll off the edge of your tongue. So when I did my podcast with Tommy and his last name, stage name being Vexed, it just worked with Vexed and Vitko, and then that just kind of stuck. So at any rate, so I'm 42 years old. I grew up in a town called Reading, Massachusetts, about 10 or 15 minutes north of the city, right? And and like you said, my sober date is 8/23/18. I just celebrated 4 years in August, and I'm living a life beyond my wildest dreams, all thanks to AA and recovery and all that stuff. So, so I grew up just outside the city, and when I was, you guys being in recovery, anyone that's watching is in recovery, you know that we talk a lot about trauma and childhood shit. And, now that I'm sober and I'm in recovery and I've done some work, I'm able to kind of like sit back and really think about times that I kind of didn't want to ever think about, right? That I just wanted to suppress, hence drugs and alcohol. And, I remember now as a kid, like my mom and dad fighting and my mom leaving and me standing at the window and being horrified that she was never coming back. And when she would pull in, the relief, right? Like, oh, thank God my person's back. So my mom got leukemia when I was a kid. And I remember a lot of that time just going to school and then going to the hospital, school, hospital. And I lived like that for a long time. And she finally came home, and then I don't know what happened. She got sick. And the moral of the story is my mom passed away in 1986 when I was 6 years old. And it was just me and my, loving, attentive, but also extremely angry over nothing, bad-tempered dad, blue collar, works for the railroad. And I just remember being like, dude, it's the first time in my life that I felt actual like sadness and like, and I didn't get it too. Like, what do you mean? Like, to me, it was like, okay, is the gig up? Like, are you coming around the corner? I didn't grasp what death was. And, so it was me and my old man in the house. I had 4 older sisters. I'm the youngest of 8 altogether, but there's a bunch of, I'm my mother's only child. But, so it was just me and my dad in the house, and I had 4 older sisters that were all moved out. So it was me and my dad. And, I grew up in a house where like, he would make he left for work super early in the morning, but he would leave breakfast on a plate on the table for me. And every morning I'd give it to my dog because I wasn't hungry, but I wasn't allowed to not eat breakfast because he'd flip his shit, And, this is what I was saying about like, my dad was there and was very supportive. And, he tried to provide for me the things that weren't provided to him as a kid. He wasn't allowed to play sports and stuff when he was a kid. But like I said, my dad was very old school, and it was his way or the highway, and you listened or you fucking, stop crying. I'll give you something to cry about. So young, I'm already repressing all these feelings, and it's not okay to cry. It's not okay. And where I came from in the outskirts of Boston, it was the last thing you want to be is pussy, bitch, fag, homo, Mary, Sally, you name it. Any of those things that were thrown around in the 80s to 90s growing up as a kid. And it's the reason why I stopped playing soccer. It's the reason why I didn't play tennis. It wasn't cool. Hockey was cool. Football was cool. Boxing was cool. That kind of shit. Again, you guys are up in Canada. You understand. And hockey it was for me, And that was my escape for a long time when I was a kid. I played baseball. I tried football. It coincided with hockey season. It was a nightmare. I did it one season and I was done. But hockey was that thing that my friends, my brotherhood, other guys that like was so about something, you know, like how much practice we'd put in from the pond to the rinks to the floor hockey to Sega Genesis. I mean, it was hockey. I just bled hockey. And in my head, I was convinced like I'm going to play in the NHL. If someone asked me when I was a kid, what do you want to do when you grow up? Like I didn't, I want to be a doctor, an astronaut. I was like, I don't know. I want to play for the Bruins. And like, if that doesn't happen, I don't know what I'm going to do. Coach hockey. Like that was it. Right. So anyways, I grew up in this house of like, 1 minute, everything's cool. Next minute it's not, again. So I'm instilling this, like, I never have this sense of calm. So when that just becomes the normal, I mean, shit, man, I'm bound to have ADD and need Ritalin and be an issue in school. And, that's how school was for me. It's not that school was hard. I just disliked it. I didn't like teachers. I didn't like authority. I didn't like being there. It was a social aspect for me, and that's it. And then, later on in high school is when I would say around like 14, 15 was the first time like I started experimenting with smoking weed and drinking and stuff. And, I'd be lying if I told you for a good amount of years, I didn't have a lot of fun, because I fucking did, man. I went hard and it was great. A lot of it was fun and I had good, harmless fun. Some of it got out of line. But what I noticed was, later on down the line is kind of, I want to keep going. And everyone else is like, dude, it's like 2, I'm going home. And I'm like, well, let's call and go back to the projects and go get more crack. You know what I mean? And like, it didn't make sense to me when no one wanted to keep the party going. And then, you know how it goes, you start to turn it into just, I don't even want to be with anyone. I'd rather just be on my own and just do drugs by myself. So I started with weed and drinking and stuff like that. And again, it was harmless. And in 2000, I was 20. And well, let's back up. So when I was around 15, 16 was the first time that I kind of had I guess, mental breakdown. I got fired from a job. A girlfriend broke up with me. And like, that was it. I went mental and, I was threatening to kill myself and all this stuff. And I started getting put in psych wards. And, I don't know what psychiatric units look like today, but when I was there as a kid, like I was on an adult unit and this was horrifying. I was in there with some horrifying human beings that was so weird. And, but I was a basket case and like, I wasn't committing enough crime to go to DYS. And like, my dad couldn't handle it. This was the answer, and a lot of that, right? Like in and out of psychiatric wards, in and out of trying some behavior program, some 2-week don't smoke weed program, some 2-week anger management. Like I'm always in these things because the courts require them, or it's the only way I won't get kicked out of school. And, as much of it like a burden, it becomes this kind of badge, right? Where you go like, this is kind of cool. This is something, even if I'm known as like the crazy kid, whatever, at least I have something. And that was only to a select few, because to my friends, again, it was still just kind of like hockey, right? But I think after high school, I dropped out. But once my friends started going to college and moving on, and some are going to play hockey in college and do all this stuff and leave and whatever, it was kind of me sitting here with my dick in my hand, like, what am I going to do? Like, I'm not going to college. So what do I do? And you turn to other guys that are around you that are doing the same thing with no purpose, no direction, no sense of self. Nothing, that we don't even know what loving ourselves looks like, let alone how to love anyone else. But every girl we're with, we swear to God up and down, we love them so much, but I'm fucking everything else that moves, That was my logic for so long. And so again, no direction, I'm home doing fuck all. And my buddy's like, hey, I'm joining the army. You want to join? And I'm like, nah, man, I'm joining the Marines. I'm tough as shit, right? So I called the Marine recruiter and I'm like, hey, man, I'm fucking tough. I want to join the Marines. And he was like, all right, you got a high school diploma? I'm like, nah, GED. He said, you got any felonies? I'm like, kind of one pending. And he's like, yeah, dude, nah, we're not going to be able to work with that. I called the Army recruiter and he's like, as long as you can give me a dirty, clean urine in 30 days, I was like, oh, these guys are great. They'll take me. So anyways, but to tell you, let me tell you what this looked like. so I have this recruiter say to me, tell me you have 30 days, tell me when, so that I can take you in and you can straight up pass this. Like there's no hidden agenda, right? And I'm like, I got you. I go online. I'm 20 at the time. Actually, yeah, I don't remember what online looked like then, but somehow or another, I got onto something or figured out, and I ordered this whole detox kit that in the next, 10 days, eat nothing but turkey and drink cranberry juice and take these pills and your shit will clear up, and like I did all these crazy things, like because it was like I couldn't just not smoke weed for that long. And again, I don't see that at the time because it's not a problem. My life's still not unmanageable. I'm not quite powerless. Well, I was all those things. I just didn't see that. So anyways, so before I leave for boot camp was the first time around Christmas time, because I left in January 2001. So Christmas of 2000 was the first time someone was like, hey, have you tried Oxycontin? And I'm like, I don't know what the fuck that is. And the way it was explained to me, it was just like, instead of eating 5 perks at once, you eat one of these and fucking hallelujah. Cool, man. The whole gamut, and crush it, sniff it, puke for a second. Man, this is amazing. And like, I've talked to people and I've worked in treatment and I've had clients that tried it one time, shot heroin one time, puked. It was disgusting. Never wanted to touch it again. Me, it was an awful experience. And I was like, when the fuck can I just build up a tolerance to not make it awful? Because that's how my brain worked with everything that I did. Even smoking weed. When I first started smoking weed as a kid, I would like float out of myself and it was so horrifying. But still every day I'm like, I can't wait to have that horrifying feeling again. So I go to the military. I go to boot camp without even knowing. Again, after sobriety and looking back, I can pinpoint the first time I ever got dope sick was at boot camp. And I remember shitting my pants and feeling so out of place. And again, so much of it's a mental fuck because I didn't know that I was withdrawing at the time. So I don't think that. I'm just thinking I'm in a new place. I feel I'm, nervous about boot camp. So technically the first leg of that, I was, detoxing. So I get out of the military and, for me, the military was going to be my cure all, right? It was going to get me off drugs, get me on the straight and narrow and fix all my problems. And it did for a while until that was done. And then now it's like I have a head full of more shit. And what am I going to do? Like, I'm a gunner. I mean, where do I go and be like, hey, are you guys hiring machine gunners? Like, I didn't think that I had anything to offer, right? That's why I joined the infantry. That's why I do like all this caveman, like such alpha, because I don't have anything to offer except just like being tough and being muscle and all this shit. When really, again, I know this now in sobriety, it was just all a farce, man, because I was just such a fucking scared kid. So, so I get through the military and, this and that. And then in 2006, so I'd been out of the military for about 2 years. And so, oh yeah, so when I came home from the military, so in 2003, I was a full-blown IV heroin user. Like, I mean, I tried to be an alcoholic and I was, but I was more like a blackout. You can catch me Thursday, Friday, Saturday, blacked out, maybe even Tuesday. I had no set kind of like I have to drink at 7 a.m. thing. I was more one of those just, if it's happening, it's happening. And I don't get that just, let's go have a couple beers. Like, let's balls to the walls, get fucked up, beat someone up, have sex, not remember it. Like that's what I thought if that didn't happen, it wasn't a good time. So when I get out of the military and like, again, I'm sitting around with a head full of noise. I get no direction, no purpose, no nothing. And I knew a kid that was into heroin and, your whole life, I feel like, you know how dirty and how dangerous and deadly and needles and all that stuff. You don't not learn that. But to think that I could get to a place of not even giving a fuck about knowing that and wanting to subject myself to that. Not only did I subject myself to it and stick my arm out in someone else's car, and that was that. From that day forward, I was married to the needle and shooting coke, shooting heroin. I mean, eating pills, crushing them up to try to see how I can shoot them. I mean, you name it, like it was just, I'm a garbage disposal. I didn't care what kind of drugs they were sending. So from 2003 until 2006 was just a story of like survival in and out of treatment centers, like never grasping what AA was about, never grasping what recovery. It was fake. It didn't seem real to me. You were full of shit. You know what I mean? There's no way you're happy because if I'm not happy, you can't be happy. You know, fuck you. That's like I was so angry. Just give me something more to be angry about. So in 2006, I was bouncing at a bar and I was also living at a sober living, right? That was a bit shady and they didn't give a shit what you did for work. At any rate, I quit that job and, I decided one night, a couple friends were like, hey, let's go out and, let's get high and this and that. And I was like, no, I can't fail a drug test. I can't get kicked out of here. I was like, but I'll go drink, right? Because again, my philosophy was like, well, I'm not that bad with drinking, so let's go do that. And we did that. We went out drinking, and I ended up stabbing a kid a few times. And I'll never forget that night. And I went to Area 2 in Boston and was charged with attempted murder. And then, that it all got lessened, and I ended up getting a 5-year sentence. So I got a 5-year sentence, and because it was a violent crime, and because I don't know how to fucking act like a human being. That my your wish is my command. You want to go hang with the fucking killers? You're on your way. So I went through classification. I went right to maximum security, and did that whole dance, and got all the fucking scary stickers, and look how scary I am, and again, man, more trauma, more things of like that feeling of like every day, holy fuck, and then getting used to it and not even give it, like it doesn't even bother you anymore. That's when you become like a goddamn psychopath, because now I get out and like I told everyone I stayed sober the whole time. I got out and got a 5-year medallion. I had a full-blown Suboxone habit just about the entire time. And my last 30 days in my cell I got out in July 1st. So in June, the whole month of June, I detoxed in a cell with another guy with just a fan in the window. And it wasn't a fun time, but like I couldn't get out with a dirty urine. And again, I'm in these situations and I want to be pissed at everyone because it's not my fault. So I got out and didn't know what to do. And I was at a program at the VA and I was, doing my best, like always, doing my best to hold on, to just try not to be a piece of shit for a little longer. Like maybe I can make it a few months this time. And then my best friend got shot and killed, and a drug deal gone bad. And like, that set me back, man, a lot mentally. And it was an excuse. It gave me an excuse. I feel like death was an excuse for a long, long time. Gave me a real good excuse to get fucked up. And what could you say? It's my best friend. It's my this. And people go, you're right. I mean, but something I learned a long time ago in sobriety is you want to be right or you want to be happy, because you can't be both. And today I choose to be happy. So I get out of prison. I was a goddamn lunatic, and things just went south quick. And I ended up going back because I violated probation so many times. And I went back for 2 years. I did 18 months. I got parole. I made it through parole with no problems. As soon as I got off parole, that was it. So I got off parole like May 11th or something in 2015. And that was it. It was the first time that I didn't have any problems or any shit. And I was like, let's do it. And I just basically went on a run that, I didn't think, I thought was going to end in the morgue. I just was over it. And I had some people that started making some calls to Florida and California. And because I was like, I can't, all these places in Mass, I'm either not allowed to go to, or I'm just too much of an issue that they won't take me. And again, this thing where I'm like, it's everyone's fault. No one will help me. Plus, at the same time, waving my badge of like, hey, man, I'm so big and badass that these places won't even take me. And it's like, imagine thinking like that. A fucking treatment place that's here to help people won't even take you because you're such a pain in the ass, So she calls all these places in Florida, no dice. I get on the phone with some kid that I was in. This is how crazy life works. So she puts me on the phone with someone in California. The guy on the phone with me has, at the time, 2 years sober, was a kid that was younger than me that lived at the sober living. The night I stabbed that kid, he lived at that sober living. What are the chances some younger kid from Boston is now on the phone that's like a marketing guy or whatever? I'm like, this is so bizarre. Anyways, they got me out to this place. And you know, I don't know what it's like for you guys, but the treatment in the United States is a bit of a racket, right? With insurance, with brokering, with all that shit. I mean, there's always, you know, for all the good work, there's a lot of people that are fucking slime balls. And someone being a slime ball saved my life. Like I got into a place with some bootleg insurance that wasn't me. I don't really give a fuck. You know what I mean? It didn't affect me. And I got to experience something. And I got a year sober out of that first year in LA. And I got exposed to so many new things. I got a sponsor and I started doing the steps and I started getting involved and doing things. And I became more willing to things like breath work and shit like that and EMDR and all this therapy stuff. And I just got a good group of people that like, and maybe I had better, you know, decent counselors and stuff previously in my life. I just wasn't open to receiving what they were telling me. So the people that I got to work with in California in that first year, man, it was life changing. I mean, I never thought that I could be this like peaceful person and shit. But the problem was in that year of sobriety, from 16 to 17, I also was under the impression that, you know, because I got certified as a breathwork instructor and I started doing breathwork. And like, once I saw how powerful it was, I'm like, man, I have to do this for veterans, addicts, anyone, right? Because it changed, it was so profound. And
Shane, I got a question about breath work.
oh yeah, shoot.
When you figured it out, like when you were introduced to it, were you shocked at how long, like you're like, how did I go my whole life without doing this?
Yeah, man, I was like, how do more people not know about this? Like,
Yeah.
and you know, as an addict, I started going, what if I had done this at 23? What if my aunt had nuts? She'd be my uncle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's got nothing to do with the price of tea in China. So yeah, man. And for me, that was the thing, was like, from now on, I have to, just like recovery, I have to be a voice for, you know, because I feel like in recovery, we're all given a blueprint, right? Like the same blueprint. And then from there, if you want a swimming pool in a different pot than I want, doesn't make your swimming pool wrong. You know what I mean? And that for me is breath work for some people, for this, for that. But I feel like so many people just don't have the information to things. And it's not being pushed out in many outlets. So you get what's available, you know?
Absolutely.
And
Shane,
I
do you
mean,
think breath work would have helped you in prison when you were in there?
I don't. And
No?
you know, people have asked me to go do breath work in prisons and shit. But here's the thing. I don't know that, and I could be wrong, and but I just am not. I think to get that vulnerable in that place with chaos sitting just outside the doors, in a minimum, maybe. Do I think it'll work at a maximum security prison? Yeah, I mean, it could. Like, look, I was in a county jail. It's just county, but they offered yoga. And not many motherfuckers were going, but there was 5 of us that would go. It was a dude that did it. He came in on his own time. And at first you want to be like, dude, I'm not doing that. But we went, and man, I'll tell you what, that shit kicked my ass, you know? So do I think if people wanted to do it, it could be beneficial? Absolutely. I just don't know that that's the setting for it, you know? Like, are you willing to like really dig in and do some work right now? And then, because I'll be honest with you, man, I changed. If I go back to prison, I have to remake myself a heartless piece of shit. I don't just do that anymore. That's not just who I am. It's a fucking jacket I got if I want to go grab it, but I really don't want to. You know what I mean? So like, I dread that, dude. I don't want to go back there because I don't want to turn that on, because man, it was hard to like come back from that. And I don't know if there's another one in me, you know? But breath work, I avoided it for the better part of a few weeks there when they kept telling me. And I was like, I'm all set with your California hippie yoga shit. I'm all set, you know? Until finally I was like, you know, I got to a place, man, where it was like, I'm going to just go do a fucking front flip off this building and just swan dive into the fucking parking lot, because I can't take the noise in here anymore. I just can't do it. I've had enough. It's been a great run. See ya, you know? And then I finally was like, you know what? Let me just do it. And man, I'm not even talking 7 sessions in, 3 sessions in, 10 minutes into my first session. And I was like, what the fuck is happening? In my head, I'm thinking, this person has me on Snapchat right now because I got boogers and all kinds of shit. I look like such an asshole because, again, my ego, and it's all about me, and everyone's so worried about what I look like and how cool I look like. And what if I don't look cool for fucking 20 seconds and someone gets in, you know? And I didn't do that with her. And man, it was just so, like, so many people I've seen after me in my sessions and stuff is just such like this, like, unexplainable, just kind of like, wow, man, that was wild, you know? And then, you know, as I did it, and people ask me, like, how long would I have to do something like that? I don't know. I did it consistently for a year straight. And then obviously, you know, fell back from it from there. But in that first year, I did it. I tell everybody, I think you should stay in treatment for a whole year. Be that, you know, however that's broken up where you are, be it detox, holding, halfway house, sober house. I don't give a shit what it's called, but you're somewhere where they're checking your piss at least 3 times a week, and you got a fucking chore for a year. And I mean, the statistics are there, man. It teaches you how to live. AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, my sponsor, all these people, they taught me how to live a life outside of AA. So that also means I don't go to 15 meetings every single day, because I mean, to me, I'm trading something. I'm avoiding life. And you know, again, these are my opinions. You know, I think it's important to stay connected, but you know, that was what the way my sponsor put it to me. It was like, I was taught and absorbed and learned how to live a life because of Alcoholics Anonymous, but also outside of Alcoholics Anonymous, you know, if that makes sense.
Shane, I'm an active member in AA, and my home group is called Design for Living. And I truly believe it is a design for living. So
Absolutely.
It's changed my life in just the short amount of time I've been doing it. So
yeah. And I mean, you know, that's the thing too, is like, you know, my sponsor, for instance, is like, he's a vegan, never been into a fight in his life. He's from California, loves triathlons and all this shit. Like, I mean, man, we're complete opposites, and he's a drunk, you know? But this guy, like, I tell my, you know, people that, you know, the one thing for me that had to happen was I needed someone that I knew I could be 100% honest with, but wasn't going to look at me with disappointment. So in other words, if my sponsor says, hey, did you go to a meeting today? And I go, no, and they do this. You want your sobriety or not? That kind of thing. Hey, man, know what you just did? You just were my dad, my hockey coach, my teacher, anyone else that just fucking shook their head in disappointment. And now all I'm thinking about is fucking biting your cheek, you know? And
Shane, I had a quick question. When you went back to prison, were you able to stay sober at that time? Second time?
If I was, it's just because I was forced to, because no drugs got through. But I'm pretty sure drugs came through a few times. Suboxone's a huge thing in prison now. Yeah. So I'm pretty sure I was still using drugs. Yeah.
So you said you headed out to was California for treatment?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And how was your experience there? You said it was a lot better than previous.
Yeah. So again, the first place I went to, it shut down. The owner was like, you know, he's doing life, all kinds of fraud shit, sexual assault on women and stuff. Like, again, man, that it's horrible, and I don't condone it. I won't mention the name. I don't think it deserves the credit, but it changed it. I don't know that it saved my life, but it definitely helped a lot of things in my life. And if it wasn't for that place, I would have never opened this place of being willing, or, you know, okay, that makes sense. Let me hear this side of it. You know, it was just, this is how I think, this is it, and that's it. There's no discussion, you know? And, you know, now we're not like that these days. So,
yeah. So where'd you go from or after treatment?
Oh, so that was the first place I went to. And like I said, so I stayed sober for a year in LA. And then that's what I was saying. It was like, I forgot that I could be a human. Right. So like I got to this place where like I'm a breathwork guy, and I'm like this guy that's like happy and so full of light, and everyone's just like, man, like this is the craziest thing we've ever seen in AA. You were an absolute train wreck, and now you're like this peace breathwork guy. And I'm like, I know it's great, right? But I'm also under the impression like, well, no, that means like I can't say fuck anymore. I definitely cannot say cunt. I gotta be happy all the time. There's no room for being sad. I got to be the rock and the shoulder for everyone. And like, fuck, man, I gave myself no room for error. And what I also did was I put all my eggs in one basket. And what I mean by that was I had one gentleman that I used as my sponsor, therapist, dad, uncle, best friend, boss, manager, hairstylist. I mean, one guy for everything. Guess what? Him and I had a falling out. I didn't know what to do, man. Of course, I had guys' numbers in AA, but not guys that I wanted to call that I knew wouldn't just, feed me some like, well, read page 44 and call me in the morning. No, dude, like I need a real fucking answer, please, And that's what I appreciated about my sponsor, man. It was just a very direct and like, that thing of like the disappointment. So when he would say, did you go to a meeting? I'm like, nah, man, I didn't. It wasn't like, why? It was like, all right, cool. Think we can, clean that up, maybe hit one tomorrow? Yeah, man, I got you. All right, cool. All right, so next, what I want you to do, right? And like that kind of thing of like him not being let down by me all the time and like that there was no wrong answer and that I was, when you guys know, when you're met with, I want to do work or I'm willing to, and like the reason why he helped me so much is because I was still angry, but he knew it wasn't at him. I was angry at myself. I was angry at the disease. I was angry at my situation. And so many guys in AA saw that. Thank God, because I went to nothing but men's stags. Again, another thing for the full first year, I think it's vital. Why? You don't need to see chicks at a meeting, I promise, because you just think about fucking them the whole time. That's it. I promise you. Especially if you're early in recovery. Oh my God, the wind blows, it's over. So, yeah, man. But, I learned a lot of things about, again, a higher power, right? I know a lot of people struggle with God and that stuff too. And that was me, man. I've tried all the things. I tried getting into church and jail. I tried out of jail. I tried non-denomination where I'd see people with tattoos and shit that wasn't like the Catholic upbringing that I'd go to and stand in church and be like, what the fuck is everyone dressed like? We're going to a wedding and like, we're all kneeling and like, what the fuck? I used to be so confused at church, dude. And so when you get to this thing in AA, right? I mean, I get it. Like in the beginning, like, oh God, and all this stuff. And I'm like, dude, I'm not doing that. And like, I had a sponsor who was very much on the same page as me with certain things, but also found a way and was like, are you willing to believe that there's some kind of creator, that there's something bigger than us that's created this? And I'm like, fuck yeah. And he's like, cool. Game over. Like for me, I'm a very visual. I need things. Like I use the wind for the longest time. Like I don't buy the doorknob thing. I'll smash a doorknob off a fucking door. That's not a power greater than me. A coffee cup, I'll smash that against the wall. It's not a power greater than me chucking it against the wall is. But the wind, I can't just go outside and manipulate the wind, right? And I can't deny that if I go out there and feel that, something's pushing that shit around. It ain't me. I don't see any fucking fans out there. So like, to me, man, I really need things like, here's the circle peg. It goes in the circle. Here's the square peg. Because if you don't tell me, I'm really trying to jam the fucking square one in the circle over and over and over, but I just needed a quick instruction. And that's like so much of my sobriety, man, was like, I told you, and when I first went into the rooms, I used to see these guys, because I'm in West LA, mind you, some motherfuckers get Teslas, Ferraris, motors, you name it, right? The watches, all the shit. And I'm like, these motherfuckers, like there should be a tax. You're lucky I'm even letting you come in here without fucking robbing you. That's how my mind thought at the beginning, right? And then I was like, because you never even had any fucking problems. How the fuck do you drive a car like that? How the fuck do you have a credit score or a house or anything? You've never had any fucking problems. You've never slept on the street. Little boy, was I fucking wrong, right? Because I've done all those things and I'm in a beautiful fucking home that I own right now, because what I had to do was start asking guys, just like I fucking picked up my big boy nuts and said, hey man, I can't get sober. I need your fucking help. Same thing. Hey man, I've never had a good credit score. I don't even know what that is. How do I fix my credit? Let me show you. Hey, I've never bought a house or a car or something. What are the steps I need? And it wasn't just, oh, we'll go down the street. It was a fucking process. Shit took time. And I didn't like that. I like instant gratification. I like Amazon a lot. Let me get that shit tomorrow, baby. But again, man, sobriety taught me to calm down, to be okay with myself. And to me, it's that whole, like that release of like letting go of that bondage of self, right? I'm my own worst enemy, man. And like, and I even still am. I'm the worst critic. You guys get it doing a podcast when it comes to editing, when it comes to logos, when it comes to this shit. Like you want to be such a perfectionist. I look like a fucking idiot. My beard looks stupid. Can we redo it? I shouldn't have wore that shirt. It made me look fat. My tits are hanging down. That's all I'm doing is rewatching my episodes going, Jesus, look at my fucking tits, dude. Why the fuck would I have worn that shirt? You know? And like, how many people thought that? Probably 3 of my friends, definitely. But other than that, no one, you know?
Isn't it wild how like inside your own head you can get? Like I'm sure you hear, well, I hear all the time in AA, I've lived inside my head my whole life and now I've finally learned to get out of it. So
yeah,
that's one of my favorite things.
You know, like what AA is to me is like I was an adult baby that needed other former adult babies to teach me how to be an adult. Right? Because I didn't know how. And that it's not I know how to do laundry and shit like that. I didn't know how to be an adult. I didn't know what you did day to day. I didn't get it. Even if I have a job, fine, then what? Even if I play video games, I get a girlfriend, then what? It was always then what, right? FOMO or whatever the fuck, like just this, what am I missing? Or I gotta be like when I was a kid, I remember always like, where are my friends? What's going on? Like, God forbid I just sit home and do something by myself. No way. I needed that stimulation to where now I'm at this place, like me and my wife. So just to update you, right? So I told you a little bit about what my life looked like, what it looks like now. I own a home in Texas. I got a vehicle. I got 2 awesome dogs. One that I train for personal protection. And I have a wife. I got married. I bought her a goddamn engagement ring with my own money. Another thing that I didn't understand, because like unless I'm doing a drug deal for $5,000 right there, how does one save $5,000 for something? I don't get. Save like 200 every week. Oh, right, okay. Like that didn't make sense to me. It was how do I get just that $5,000 today? Who can I rob? What can I do? What's the quick answer? And I didn't take that quick answer. So I proposed to her at on my 2 years, and she put this great video together with all my friends wishing me man. It was great, and ultimately we left California and we bought a home in Texas, and we're here with the dogs, and we got our first. My little girls due the day after Christmas, man, and I couldn't be fucking more happy, and I couldn't be like, it's crazy, man. It's crazy to think that I'm in a place where like I got, never mind the cash and prizes, I got peace of mind. I got like, I'm okay with me. I'm ready to take on it. Am I going to fuck up a bunch? Yeah, dude, for sure. But like, I'm so excited. At least I get to like be present and not like just some junky piece of shit just contributing nothing and stealing oxygen from humans and you know, whatever. And I'm really grateful, man. I'm really grateful for my life. And like, I just got off the phone with my buddy before this podcast, and I was telling him like, I mean, not a day goes by that I don't wake up in this house and think about the times of being on a mattress in an apartment, if I was lucky to even have that. Never mind panhandling or the treatment places, the prison cells. And like, I walk out here in my underwear, you know, with my dick hanging out, swinging around in my boxes in my own home because like no one's going to come yell at me. There's no female staff working here. You know what I mean? It's like, it's wild, dude. It's wild to me. And when people ask me like, oh, but don't you like, oh, when people start getting so mad, I'm like, yeah, man, I get it too. Like I murder motherfuckers in my head daily, especially driving in traffic. But I keep the windows up. I'm not rolling the window down, chasing people around and you fuck this and fuck that. Like for what? You know what I mean? I have things today. Like to me, the most dangerous person's a motherfucker that's got nothing to lose. And that's who I was for the longest time. So yeah, go ahead. Try your luck. Whereas now you can try your luck because I'm not willing to like, I have shit to lose. Consequences are huge now. I lose my family. I lose a lot of stuff, and I'm not willing to go down that route. So what I do is I continue to work a program. I continue to make sure I'm talking to my sponsor, talking to my sponsee, doing meetings. Thank God for Zoom. I got buddies in Canada, buddies in LA, and it's great, man. A lot of people hate it, but I think it's done wonders to be able to still bring, you know how many people I've seen like take cakes for like 2 years and still haven't even been to an in-person meeting. That blows my mind. Me, I need to be touched and hugged and shit and like told that it's going to be okay. I give them so much credit, man. That's huge.
I had a question, Shane, for you, just to go back to like early on when you got, released, you're out of the military. Like, do you think there should be a better job done with like the exit strategy for especially young guys that go into the army and maybe like mandatory courses you take at the end of it or to help you deal with that trauma? Because I mean, as young adults, as like 17, 18, and then going to the army, you don't really know how to deal with anything really, right? So
yeah, that's a great question. And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know, because I went in 2000, right? I got home from overseas in 2003. So when I came home, you signed a motherfucking paper. Everything was cool. Keep it pumping, troop. You know what I mean? It wasn't until years later that I started seeing guys with PTSD and all this shit. And I was like, what, like it was like '08 when I was in prison that I finally started seeing like, oh shit, this might be real, So, I don't know what it's like now. I also know that our military is not what it once was, and leadership is failing. And I have a lot of friends that are ETSing and getting out because they're just done with the bullshit. And but yeah, I hope by now, Dave, that they have something in place like that. But again, it's one of those things that even if it is, I don't know how many people are willing to. But then again, I think we are. I think we're at a different place now too, right? In 2000, you figure 20 years ago, we weren't talking about trauma the way we were. We definitely weren't talking about people's feelings or fucking pronouns, and that shit matters now. Like at jump school, they have someone come out that's like, if anyone's having anxiety about this and wants to talk, dude, what? No, you can't do that to a fucking airborne infantry guy. Like, you want to do that with the medics and shit. That's like one thing, but so I don't know, man. I don't know what it's like, but I would love to see the same thing for prison. And it's not like that, because here I am, I'm only doing a 5-year sentence, but because I've been such a behavioral issue or whatever, they automatically, send me to a maximum security prison with guys that are never going home. And like, that's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, unless I'm really fucking people up, but just regular fighting and shit, I don't think I should have ever seen past a medium security. And I damn sure think, especially if you're not doing life and you have 5 years, 2 years, whatever, your last year should look like something, granted with, exceptions. You're being a complete asshole, that's different. But like for me, I was able to at least my last year kind of calm down and go to a medium and do that. But it's still, there was no, I did like the drug program where there was probably more drugs in the drug program than there was in regular population. And, yeah, man, it's really, I found it difficult personally, to like take shit, anything serious, it still was, there was no work to be done yet. It was still just, let's just keep feeding this beast and making this, as angry and pissed off as possible, But I would love to see more of that stuff. And I know that they are offered, but it's like you have to have been in a minimum, or you have to go to pre-release and get offered this shit. So like when you see these guys, I mean, I don't know, man. I know where I'm from in Mass. Like if you're doing the Scared Straight program and stuff, those guys are not tough. Those guys have, it's not that they're not tough. What I mean is they're not causing any trouble. That's why they were able to get to those positions. So when they get in there with all this yelling and shit, nah, because I remember when that came through and I was like, I'm down. And they were like, not a fucking chance, and the kid next to me, like, it threw a fucking fry on the ground and they were like, yeah, come on, you're in.
Shane, I saw your post on Instagram that you went back to the place on your 4-year sober day. Is that what it was? Went back to the place you got in the incident that first sent you to jail?
Yes, when I went to Boston. Fuck it.
Can you describe the feeling of that?
Again, so another one. Listen, I'd love to give you a fucking scripted for TV answer because I could come up with a cool one. When we went to Boston, dude, so, my wife's from England, and it was our first time going there. And you can see behind me, we have a tea company called Boston, the Brit Tea Company. All I do is give her shit about the tea party and stuff. So Um, you know what, dude? So we got COVID on that trip is my point. And it was one of the worst trips of my entire life. But I got this cup from Pizzeria Regina. If you ever go there, Boston's favorite pizza place is the stop. Anyways, that's it. That's a fucking good question. You know what? I like that you guys are goddamn prepared because I've been on a lot of fucking podcasts and they don't come and they just ask me to talk and don't know shit and act like it's all new information. So thank you. How was that feeling? You know what it was like, I don't want to say victorious in this way of like that I was the Captain Morgan guy and just like chest out victorious, but like I remember just being like, man, I've come such a long way. Like I'm standing here with my at the time fiance. I'm sober, like my life's not in shambles. And that spot could have changed my life. I mean, it did change my life drastically, but I could have done life in prison that night. And then that, so man, there was a lot of emotions, plus being there with my, my wife and experiencing that with her. I think what was cool for me was to be able to do that with her. And like, she doesn't know me fucked up. She doesn't know me as like a lunatic. She knows me sober, and I hope, not hope, and that's how it'll be. But what helped for me is like, I get vulnerable with my wife and I talk real shit. And like, it's comforting to know that I had a woman by my side that like, made me feel okay. You know what I mean? Made me feel safe while I was like experiencing. I mean, dude, it's like, I feel so uncomfortable saying shit like I'm telling you, man, I don't know what it is in our DNA as men that's like so uncomfortable to like talk about shit without being like, God, I'm such a fucking dork. But you know what, man? Maybe I am, but like I'm a fucking sober, happy dork instead of a cool, pissed off junkie,
Got to get uncomfortable to feel comfortable.
That's it, baby. That's it. I tell them all.
Shane, when you look back at like your using days, in your wildest dreams, did you ever think you'd be able to like achieve the life that you have now?
Not a fucking chance, dude. Like, I mean, I don't even know what I thought the best was going to be, doing the shuffle, try to survive in this program and then get an apartment, work some labor job. I don't really know what I thought in Boston, but then leaving there, like I've never been one to be afraid to leave and kind of go. I tried Arizona once when I was young and, I love Boston. I love my city. I'll always be from there, but I've never been like tied to it. Like I have to live here kind of thing, And like, I tell my wife this, like when we, sometimes when we argue, I don't know if any of you guys are married or you get girlfriends, sometimes when you argue and stuff and that, she has trauma and her shit too. And one of her thing is, like me, is fear of abandonment. Her always thing is like, doesn't want me to leave. And I'm like, try to explain to her, like how, like, and not to mention that I was not faithful in the beginning of our relationship. She knows that. Again, I got honest because I'm working a 90% program and that 10% was like, dude, you're still being a motherfucker. Like you don't get to do that. You know what I mean? You can, but if that's, but you can't. So I told her like, the fact that like I saved money, thousands of dollars to go have a custom ring made for you. The fact that I would even think about, you know what? I think I'm going to ask this girl to marry me. You know what I mean? Like that, dude, that wasn't on my radar. How? What the fuck do I have to offer anyone? Girlfriends for the rest of my life will be cool and swiping right and swiping left. You know what I mean? Like that's it. It's so easily accessible. Who needs to get married? Fuck it. And like, I think like, another sad thing in this country or in this world is just a lot of older things, a lot of values just aren't the same anymore. Divorces through the roof and just because things are so convenient. Before you used to have to like talk to people, schedule trips on the phone and like, can't wait to see you. We got the pictures in the mail. Now I can just go on Zoom and see you if I want to go on my iPhone, check your social media and then jerk my dick till it falls off all day long, like, or then go on fucking Bumble and Tinder and start swiping and like, what do I care if you don't like me? Fuck it. I'll just find some, right? So it becomes such like a just dump it onto the next thing that I explained to her, like, I've lived like that for so long and I didn't think that I could find a person, and when I got honest with her about all this stuff, because again, I met her, I was a year sober when we met. I have no excuse. You know, I was doing my 6th step. It was something I knew I couldn't, it was a character defect I wasn't really willing to get rid of. I wasn't willing to tell you that I wasn't going to fuck another girl ever again in my life. Couldn't do it. Couldn't do it because I actually wasn't willing to tell you that because I wasn't willing to fucking do it. So, you know, I had to go through this whole thing with my sponsored shit, you know, and then ultimately it was like, you know what, man, if I don't fucking do something and like show this girl that like she's the one, I need my head checked. Like, what the fuck am I doing? What am I doing, man? You know? And I get sick of making her cry and shit. Like just I just didn't want to do that. So, you know, man, the fact that, and then we got married and I told her like, this is it. This is it for me. This isn't like, if this doesn't work, you know, back to swiping and let's see who my new wife is. No, dude, this is it. We work on shit. We figure it out. Excuse me. I'm grateful for my wife because she's not in the program, but because I've done extensive work, because I've worked in trauma, because I've done all these things, she's interested. She's intrigued. She asks questions so that now when we fight or have arguments, I'm like, hey, so, you know, and I don't always want to be your therapist and shit, but I know some things about some things. So like when you're responding like this, I think it has something to do with this. Just take a look at that, you know, and she's like open to that stuff and she works on her shit and like it works. And that's another thing where, you know, and the fact that we were able to buy a house and like we're running a business together and we're starting a family. No way, man. No fucking way. I don't even know what I could have told you what I thought the best for me was, but let me tell you, once upon a time, I sat at the South Boston table in the maximum security and MCI Walpole, and that was it for me. As far as I was concerned, I don't need it. That's it. I had reached my ceiling. This is as cool and as tough as you can be, is to just say you had a seat there. And it's like, who gives a fuck? Nobody outside gives a fuck. Nobody that like has a regular job gives a fuck that I sat at the South Boston table. You know who cares? Motherfuckers in treatment and other guys in prison. That's it.
Shane, you got that the T venture going, and it looks like you got a lot of other stuff going on. You want to talk about? You know, you got the podcast.
Yeah,
what else you got going on?
Yeah, so I was doing I did the Deviant Gentleman podcast with Tommy Vext, and then just with moving and him, you know, he faced a lot of stuff with getting kicked out of the band for voting for Trump, and you know, he went through a lot of stuff of trying to get canceled and stuff, and then started his own new band and started touring and stuff, and obviously like it just couldn't work out. So I tried a few other things, and you know, this is what I realized again, because again, being a great fucking alcoholic, drug addict, and being an overthinker and a perfectionist and shit, I'm just like, my business failed, man. Deviant Gentleman failed. It was cool. It had a good run, and then it shit the bed. But like, it didn't shit the bed. It's just not where I want it to be. And I'm thinking about what avenue I want to go with next. And I just don't know right now as far as Deviant Gentleman's concerned. It's just on ice. And again, I've been considering some new podcast ideas and stuff because I miss it, man. I love this shit. I really do. And I feel like it's important and people are listening. And I remember that. And you know, people are still reaching out to me about putting out episodes. It's just not working out for me right now. And it's just a season and it's the way it goes. So yeah, right now, the big focus for us is the tea. You know, we started the Boston and the Brit Tea Company and based everything's around the Revolutionary War and, you know, fun play on words and stuff. And that's another thing. I just redid the website and stuff, and everything I do is I just figure it out. I go to YouTube University and fucking put in, how do you do this and how do you do that? And I trial and error and I fuck it up. And I should probably have a marketing guy and I probably need an account, you know, but like, I don't, man, because like, I'm just trying to do life like the next motherfucker. I feel like so many people got this facade of like that everything's great and everything's going well. And look at how much I'm just, you know, rolling over, just get the supreme money shooters just shooting bills everywhere. And it's like, that's not what's happening for me, you know, but I am very grateful for where, you know, so many things have got me, and I've developed so many connections with things. I feel like I have so many kind of projects going on all at once because I have so many creative friends and so many people that are doing so many things. It's like you try to get your hand in one thing here and there, and some things work and some things don't, you know? So yeah, I mean, anyone if you drink tea or you're interested in tea, we got new holiday packs we're putting up. We also just started a subscription tea club where the tea just gets sent to you monthly.
You send to Canada?
Yeah, we'll send to Canada. We send to England. We send all over. Yeah,
I'll be
absolutely.
getting some.
Yeah, bostonandthebrit.com. It's good. And, you know, we kind of get a little bit of our story on there. And, You know, for me, man, what I realized too is like I was such a fraud for so long. And what I mean by that is like I was a scared, shy kid. I just didn't, I had questions. I felt weird. I felt different, you know? And you don't get to do that sometimes as a kid. And you definitely sometimes don't get to do that with other kids because then you get fucking tormented. So you eat it and you eat that uncomfortability until it becomes normal, right? And but once I got into like a fight or I started doing this thing and I saw this like persona I could develop. It's only a lie, and like when you don't believe it. Once you stop believing that you're a fucking stone cold killer, I mean, well, let me rephrase that. You are until you're faced with a fucking situation, and then we'll see if you are or not, you know. But there was times that I was and times that I wasn't. There's been times I've held my head and been like, holy shit, you know, and other times where I'm run right into the thing. But it was all bullshit. Not all of it, but a lot of it. Like I would never tell you that I'm hurting or that you know, I'm sad or that I miss people or that I'm feeling a certain way, you know. Whereas now I recognize something and I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And I'm like, babe, you know what? Like, this has nothing I give her warnings sometimes. Like, I just want to let you know something happened today. It has absolutely nothing to do with you or the situation. It brought up some old shit, but I'm this close to being a motherfucker. I just want you to know, you know? And that's the difference, you know. But like I try my best to be authentic today. And that's why it's like if you know, that caught me that first time when I got that year. Not being authentic is what caught me up, right? Because it was like I got to put on this facade that I'm doing so great and everything's always fucking awesome and I have no worries in the world. And I'm like, no, man, I'm a human. I'm allowed to have days. I tell my wife even today's one of those days, babe. It's just one of those days, you know. And like tomorrow's a fucking new start, you know. Or you get out of it. Where I used to stay in a funk for so long. And resentment, man. That's another thing I squash with the fucking quickness. As soon as I feel little resentment, me and my wife call them like, you know, at the end of the week, we do like, you got a bag of like little resentments you want to fucking, let's hear them. You know what I mean? Spew them. Let's get this shit out. And we do that. You know, I'm at my desk and her desk is right across from me. So she like turns around and this is where we'll sit. And, you know, she'll start with something and I'll go like this. And I go, do you want to fight? And she's like, yeah. And I'm like, send it. Let's get it out. You know what I mean? Because I'd rather do that than we both sit on resentment or you're resentful towards me. I'm reading it. Now it's fuck you. I can't do fuck yous because then sooner or later I go fuck you to everything and I burn it to the ground and I'll be shooting heroin and either overdose or be in prison. I mean, I should be dead or in prison, man. Like every day is a fucking gift for me. So I'm just so grateful that I finally woke up. Like I finally, you know, and it's like everyone's like, oh, you got to do the work. Like, look, man, I've been a manual laborer my entire life. That's work. This wasn't work. It was getting uncomfortable and doing some like pain in the ass stuff is what it is. It was more of a pain in the ass to do and write, do it all. But I mean, it changed my life and so many other people too. So it's like, I mean, dude, honestly, I feel like the 12 steps is something it should be a class in third grade. Because we lose out on how to cope with shit. If we don't have people helping us out with that, and we figure it out on ourselves, you're on a fucking stripper pole or you're behind bars, Holmes. You know what I mean?
Absolutely, man. Fellas, any more questions for Shane?
I got I got one. You miss hockey at all?
You know, I got a couple buddies that are sober that play in the NHL. I got a couple that are retired that are sober. And it's so cool, man. It's so cool, like that I get to watch them live what I always dreamed of doing, you know. And I do. And like I skated a few times out in LA. I'm probably the only person in Texas with a full bag of hockey equipment in the garage. And you know, I haven't been out to the Aerodome or anything. But I still got my stick in the garage. I get a little tape ball out there, and you know, I fire it around every now and again. But dude, hockey will always forever just, you know, there's some things that stay ingrained in your DNA forever, and hockey's one of them. Now, if I was to turn on the TV right now, do I know more than probably 10 fucking players in the league? Probably not, Not like how it was in the 80s and 90s when I knew every player on every team and had every card and knew everyone's number. You know what I mean? Like, I miss being that into it, but I also think it's fucking weird to be an adult male that's that into sports. That's just me. Like, I love it, but I also don't give a fuck if the Bruins don't win the Stanley Cup. Like, I'm gonna sleep.
Absolutely.
I want them to, but I'm a grown up.
Shane, man, thank you so much for joining us today, bro.
Of course, thank you guys.
Yeah.
Thank you for reaching out.
And congratulations on everything. And
Thank you.
congratulations on the little baby girl.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Look, to anyone, I don't know, maybe you're gonna do this at the end, but my Instagram is at Shane Vitko, at Shane Vitko. You're struggling, you got questions, you've been to prison, you feel like no one understands whatever it is, hit me up, send me a message. I might not respond instantly, but I will definitely get back to you and do whatever I can or send you in the right direction. Because yeah, people were there for me, and I'm so grateful they were.
Yeah, guys, we'll include that down in the description. Thank you so much for listening. Shane, thank you so much for joining us. And if you or someone you know is struggling with addiction, please reach out and ask for help.